Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hey everyone, it's Jory. Before we jump into this milestone episode, I want to be able to offer you guys a gift. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of this Journey Forward community and on this journey with me as I've been able to share all the tools in mindfulness and meditation and how to cultivate greater awareness and compassion for you to be living the life that you really want, one in which you can cultivate greater peace, calm, and joy regardless of what's arising. And as a way of saying thank you, I want to give you a free meditation, which I recently recorded to go in conjunction with my new book, A Year of Gratitude. It is, of course, a gratitude meditation. So be sure to check out the link in the show notes where you can download it for free. And if you feel inspired to want to practice more, I have recorded all 13 meditations that are in the book. So you can upgrade that purchase for a small fee so you can have me guiding you through each of the meditations as outlined. And if this podcast has meant anything to you, if you've learned anything, if you have felt like you've just been listening to a friend and hearing great conversations, or if you've gained some wisdom and nuggets and tools to incorporate into your daily life as a way of showing your appreciation for what you've learned, it would mean so much to me if you were to give the podcast a rating, a review, and so we can help more people to journey forward to living their best life. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed today's 100th episode. All right, you guys, take care and enjoy, and I will be here talking with you again next week. Be well. Hey everyone, it's Jory Rose, and welcome to the 100th episode of Journey Forward with Jory Rose. I'm so excited about this milestone. I really cannot believe I've done 100 episodes, and I have been so grateful for this platform to be able to not only share my story, share my teachings and tools of mindfulness and meditation, and how it has looked in my life and how it's impacted my life, because I hope that through my storytelling of my own journey and my application of mindfulness in my everyday moments, I'm hoping that it resonates and that you've learned something so you too can be able to integrate these tools. But in addition for having this platform to teach and inspire and to motivate, I have absolutely loved all of the guests that I've had on. Like, what an amazing opportunity to connect with people from literally all over the world, because everyone has a journey to share. Everyone that I've spoken to has inspired me so much. And I can't tell you how often I will refer back to previous episodes, send them to clients as references for different tools and different ways of approaching their challenges. So thank you for you, the Journey Forward community, for being part of this platform and for sharing in this process with me, because it's really, really been a ton of fun. And in recognizing that this is the 100th episode, I really wanted to acknowledge some of the things that I've overcome to be able to get here. And again, in hopes that I can inspire and motivate and help guide a path if there's anything similar that resonates, where you might get stuck, where your mindset might be holding you back, where you might have some fear or anxiety about doing things you've never done. Because ultimately, I have been able to accomplish hard things. And if I can do it, then I know that you can do it. And so as I was prepping for this episode today, it made me think, when I was about 6 years old, I lived in Los Angeles when I was born and lived there up until the time I was 7. And my mom loved going to the beach. So we would often spend our weekends in Malibu, at Zuma Beach, or in Venice Beach. And I remember one day at Venice Beach, which I'm hoping you guys know what Venice Beach is, but there's a boardwalk along the sand, and there's always these crazy vendors and people on roller skates, and just a very hip, cool scene. And even it was when I was young, as it is now. But I have this memory of finding a pin on the ground, and it says, I know how to get what I want. And I remember at the time thinking like, okay, I'm 6 years old. I know how to get what I want. That there was probably some sort of like, if I cried, then it might have gotten me there. And that mentality or that mindset did not last very long. I was not someone who manipulated through tears to get someone to give me something or to pay attention. But I really began to grow up with this mindset of I know how to get what I want. And part of it was having the ability to believe in myself. But I think an even bigger part of getting what I wanted was having a clear vision of what that looked like. And there was many times in my life where that wasn't the case, that this is really something I have had to cultivate and practice and consciously want to create some tools around so I really could cultivate the life I wanted to be leading. And that it wasn't by chance and I wasn't a victim to circumstances, but that I was actually in charge of how my life could unfold to, of course, the extent in which we have control. So when I was growing up, I'm sure if any of you who've been listening to the podcast in the beginning have heard a bit of my story, but I was mostly raised by a single mom. My parents divorced when I was young, and my dad actually committed suicide when I was 10. And I came from a family that was very close-knit, very tight. And while education was really important, grades were not. And so I was raised to get good grades, but not necessarily always have to try, to get straight A's. That was never the mentality that my mom had. She was always more concerned with me being balanced. And so if that meant not stressing over grades, that was great. And I actually don't think it pushed me to my potential. And it was a very easy family belief that we just went to junior college and we never went to four-year schools. That was just kind of the paradigm of my family. And that was what I was expecting for myself. Up until I started dating my high school boyfriend, who later became my husband, now my ex-husband. But he was really motivated for not only grades, but to get into a four-year college. And that was part of his family paradigm. And so he and another friend of ours, it was actually an entire mindset shift for me because all of a sudden it became really cool to want to get good grades. And I decided, I hope it's not too late. And so I think it was about my junior year, I went from, I was a fine student, probably mostly B's, some A's, maybe some C's, but I definitely didn't push myself. But then something lit a fire under me where I decided I'm getting into a four-year school. And I just got very determined and I started working a lot harder. I started getting a lot more focused, but I think I was actually tapping into some potential in me that I hadn't quite activated, whether it wasn't that I believed in myself or it just simply wasn't pushed in a really healthy way, because I don't really believe in pushing kids in an unhealthy way. Anyhow, long story short, I actually got into a four-year school. I went to Santa Barbara. I was the only one in my family to go directly to a four-year college out of high school. And I very quickly learned how to push past any barriers of not believing in myself. And what was amazing, when I let go of that story that I wasn't smart or not smart enough or that I couldn't achieve, all of a sudden, nothing less than the best was my potential. And after the first quarter, I was at UC Santa Barbara. I think I got, 2 A's and a B maybe that first quarter, but from every quarter thereafter, I got all A's. I was on the dean's honors list every quarter. And not only that, I'm not trying to brag here. That's not my intention of sharing this part of the story. It really was about the mindset shift and the believing in myself. And not only did I, get great grades, but I also ended up graduating college in 3 years. My boyfriend, who, like I said, became my husband, he was a year ahead of me in school, and I wanted to catch up to graduate at the same time as him, which meant that every quarter I was taking an insane amount of units to be able to finish an entire year early. So not only was I believing in myself to get good grades, but all of a sudden I was pushing myself to some limits that nobody else was doing. And I luckily had a great major and I was doing really well in my classes. And so it actually really worked well as far as balance. And I wasn't living a life of stress and anxiety about I have to get good grades. It was all really self-imposed. But it was a major mindset shift from I don't know that I can do that, to, of course, I can do that. And I invite you to consider, as I'm talking through these examples I'm sharing with you in this episode, where is your mindset around how you approach challenges, or how you approach new things, or how you approach what might be named as something that's hard? What is the immediate story you're telling yourself? What is the belief system you have, either of I can or I can't? And, obviously some there inside of that is also, I don't really want to, and that's not what I'm pushing for. So of course that's, obviously part of our makeup as well. But all of a sudden it was like, I realized that my potential was really high. And I think it was something I knew when I was young, but it wasn't motivated. It wasn't encouraged. It was not that mediocrity was encouraged by any means, but again, there's a healthy balance of pushing yourself or being pushed by a parent versus, being in your authentic way that you show up in the world. And so once I had this awareness in college that I can do hard things, and not only can I do them, I can do them really well, I also knew in what realm that meant, right? I wasn't going to try for things that didn't align with who I was. So it was also having some clarity on what are the conditions that I can create in which I can really excel. And so I can actually succeed and feel good about myself. Like it's this whole self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Around the conditions that I set and what I was able to achieve. So graduated college in 3 years, got Dean's honors list, took only a semester off before going into graduate school, and just kind of kept going forward with my education to be able to become licensed as a therapist. And that's a whole nother story. But along the way, some might call it stubborn. I'm going to call it that I was very determined. And once I got my mind set on something, I didn't really waver from this is what I was going to do. And one of my best examples of this was fast forward many years later, and we were at Disneyland with my husband at the time and my 2 daughters and another family. And we were there all day long, like literally from the time that it opened. And we had been in both Disneyland and California Adventure. We had actually gotten in to go to Club 33 for lunch, which was an amazing experience. And now it was almost the end of the day. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and we were in line for Toy Story in California Adventure. And the park had already closed, which means, of course, the rides were still going, but they had cut off the line at 11 o'clock when the park closed. So we were almost onto the ride. And one of the girls was on my shoulders. And I felt as I reached up and kind of repositioned her on my shoulders and realized that one of my diamond earrings was missing. These were diamond earrings that my husband gave me the night before we got married. And it is now 11 o'clock at night. And I realize I am missing a diamond. I had no doubt in my mind I was going to find the diamond. Now, talk about a needle in a haystack. 2 amusement parks over the course of, at this point, probably a 15 or almost 16-hour day, because we were there, I think, since 7 in the morning. Never once did the thought enter my mind, what if I don't find it? The only thought that was really present in my mind was, I just got to go look for it. And of course, if I go look, I know I'm going to find it. I don't think I'd ever had such a clear mindset and determination that I could do it. Now, I imagine so many people in this situation might automatically stop themselves before they even start with the thoughts of, that's impossible. How are you ever going to do that? What makes you think you're going to find it? Where are you going to start looking? Like the how becomes a thing that stops them. The how was just simple. I just had to go do it. And the belief that this earring was not meant to be lost was really powerful. That kept coming into my mind. So I got out of the line and I got to where there was a Disneyland employee who was holding the line for where no people could get more access. And this was kind of before cell phones, so I didn't have a flashlight on my phone that I could easily pull up. So I asked the employee, can I have a flashlight? I've lost a diamond earring. So mind you, if you can imagine a line at an amusement park, there's a lot of ways that you can weave in and out of, back and forth, back and forth. So I was only about, at this point, maybe 20 feet from where my family was standing. And there was still much of the line behind me that we had already gone through, but there was no people there. So I asked the employee, can I get a flashlight, please? I've lost an earring. And I start looking on the ground, weaving my way out of the line to get to the beginning of the ride. I kid you not more than probably 15 feet from where I started looking, I see my diamond earring on the ground. It had been stepped on, so the post was broken, but there it was in plain sight. Nobody had taken it, about 15 feet from where I started looking. I mean, it could have literally fallen off anywhere in the park. And when I found it, I didn't even have like this overwhelming, oh my God, there it is, like as if I was shocked. It was more of an acknowledgement. Of course, there it is. I knew I would find it. There was not a single doubt in my mind. I just simply had to go look for it. So I picked up the earring, I gave the flashlight back to the employee, and I weaved my way back into the line where my family was. And I actually made it back before they even got on the ride. I was gone for maybe less than 5 minutes. And they're like, what are you doing back so soon? And I open up the palm of my hand, and there is my diamond sitting in the palm of my hand. And they were all in disbelief, because who in their right mind would even begin to find a lost diamond in Disneyland? For me, how could I not? And like I said, there was never a doubt in my mind I wasn't going to find it. It was just a matter of I had to go look for it. So I, again, invite you to consider, what is your mindset when you approach a challenge? What is your mindset when you come up against hard things? Do you have a similar mentality of that seems really daunting, so I'm going to stop before I start? Or do you have a, well, let me just start, because if I don't at least start, I'm never going to be able to take any journey forward in finding out the possibility of whether I could or I couldn't. And I think what was so powerful about this same experience was I've harnessed that mentality in so many areas of my life since. You know, I don't think I could have gone through a divorce had I not had this mentality of course I can get through that. It doesn't have to shut me down. It might be hard, and of course it was hard, and I'm not doubting that any challenge isn't going to be hard, but the mindset in which I approached it with was, of course I'm going to find my way through. It's just a matter of I got to do it. I don't think I would have had the same mentality had it not been for that experience so deeply ingrained in me, in having the belief of finding love and finding a new life partner even after divorce. Again, that was another example of, I know he's out there. I simply just got to go look for him and believe that it's there. I took that same mentality when beginning a private practice after getting licensed. I know so many people who are starting out start to freak out with, oh my God, how do I begin to find clients? Where do I start? And in my mind, when I started, I was already kind of at the end goal, not the completion point, but at the end goal of being successful, at the end goal of having a full private practice. And for me, because I had spent so many years cultivating a community around teaching mindfulness, when I finally opened up a private practice, I instantly had like 10 clients who found me. And the ease in which I built a practice happened quickly. But more importantly, it was fully aligned because I'd been planting those seeds all along. But I never got stuck on, can I do this? It was just simply a matter of course I can. I've just got to go do it now. And another example of when the same kind of mindset came into play was actually in starting this podcast. I was working with a business coach at the time, Jen Kem, who's amazing. And I had a one-on-one day with her. And we were kind of setting out a business plan over the next couple of years. And this took place in January 2018 or 2019, I guess. And one of the things on our business plan was doing a podcast. And I remember in her plans, she laid out for me to start it in May. And I immediately was like, why do I have to wait till May? I can do that sooner. I didn't get stuck on the, am I going to be good at it? I didn't get stuck on the logistics of how do I actually start a podcast? I stuck with the belief of what was in alignment for me, which was, I want to have a podcast. Of course I can make that happen. And that took hiring the right people to figure out how to make it happen. That once I realized I didn't have to do all the steps myself, the possibility and the flow became so much easier. And over the course of my career, that has been a really helpful point in helping me keep my eye on the prize, is realizing I don't have to do it all myself. I can delegate, I can hire out, I can ask for help. So it's that same, again, these mindsets that go along with our challenges. Do I have to do the whole thing myself, or who can I turn to for support to help me get where I want to be and where I need to be and where I know I can be? So even with this podcast, I kind of laughed at, here's this high-end business coach that is giving me a plan. And I'm like, I don't have to do that like that. I can do it sooner. I can do it now because I'm ready now. And I believed in myself, which was not always part of my makeup. It took me years. I had moments early on, but it took years to actually believe it. And I think the thing that really solidified it for me was, if you haven't listened to the whole episode, I invite you to go back. It's one of the very early episodes of talking about what's your board and what's your cushion. And this was an episode in which I shared one of my most transformational life experiences when I broke a board. I actually think it's episode number 14. So if you want to go back and specifically listen to that story, it'll give you greater insight into what I'm about to share. But I was, the quick version is I was on a retreat with Dan Millman at the Omega Institute in the summer of 2013. And after a weekend of peaceful warrior training, he tells us that we're going to have to break a board, like martial arts style. Well, this was one of the moments where my mindset of I can do hard things wasn't there immediately. The immediate thought that I had when we were told we'd have to break a board, my immediate thought was, I can't fucking break a board. Well, it was my turn. There was 2 cement blocks with a purple meditation cushion and in between the 2 blocks, and a plastic interlocking board across the top of the cement blocks. And Dan Millman says to us, what do you think the goal is? And we're all just said, like, well, duh, you just told us we've got to break a board. And he said, no, the goal is to hit the cushion underneath, and the board is simply in your way. He said, the cushion represents your dreams and your goals. The board represents your obstacles. Well, I thought that was a really beautiful analogy, and I still don't think I could do it. So I get up there, it's my turn, and I'm focusing on the board, and I'm looking up at Dan Millman, and he's telling me to breathe. Everyone's chanting my name. And oh, by the way, he told us we only had one chance to do it. Everyone's chanting my name. I raise my hand up in the air, I bring it down, and much to my shame and embarrassment, I did not break the board. I was one of about 6 people in a group of 60 who didn't break it. And I was heartbroken. I was devastated. I was like, see, I told myself I couldn't do it. And it was strange because I hadn't had that mentality in so long, where I got stuck on the obstacle. I got stuck in my negative mindset. I got stuck in not believing myself. And it was such both a rare and yet familiar feeling for me, this kind of paradox that I had so much overcome some of that mindset, and yet it was so familiar all at the same time. So everyone else went. After everyone had gone, he asked us to raise our hand if we hadn't broken the board. Again, I was one of about 6 people. I raised my hand, and embarrassed, I had to go up again because I still was in the mindset of, I can't do this. And as I kneel down in front of the board this time, and I'm getting some coaching from Dan Millman, and I'm recognizing what I did wrong the first time. What I did wrong was my vision, entire focus and energy was focused on that board. And all of a sudden it clicked for me in that moment that what I was focusing on was the obstacle, which made the mindset of I can't do that come to life. And something inside of me shifted, where I went from focusing on the board, which was the obstacle, and I shifted my entire vision, focus, and energy onto the cushion beneath it. I took a few deep breaths. I focused my energy. I calmed my brain. I reframed the inner voice inside my mind saying, I can't do that. And I raised my hand in the air and I came down and I broke that board and I hit into that purple cushion in such a way that in that moment, everything literally changed for me. Because even though I was in a habit of most often believing I could do hard things, every now and then that old mindset crept up. And now that I broke through that board, I no longer could believe it. And so every obstacle that I perceived in my future, and from that moment on, just simply became another obstacle to push through. And it's a reminder that energy flows where intent goes, right? So if you focus on the obstacle, that's where you're going to get stuck. If you focus on your dreams or your goals or that purple meditation cushion, that is where you can end up. So I invite you to consider, what are your obstacles? What are your boards that are stopping you? And what are your cushions? What are your dreams? What are your goals? But more importantly than focusing on your board or your cushion is, what is the mindset that you bring to each situation you are approached with a board and cushion opportunity? Because I know I can do hard things. I know that I can be determined. I can be somewhat stubborn about it, but mostly I'm determined because I'm focused on what I want the outcome to be. And I don't let the questions like how stop me. I realize that every time I ask how, it's simply an opportunity to either learn a new skill or simply delegate it out or just ask for help. And that nothing is wrong with me for not knowing the how, because that's the easy part. That's everything is figure outable, as Marie Forleo would say, which I love that concept of, we can figure it out. But if we don't have the mindset and the belief that I can do hard things, then we're always going to stay stuck, not being able to break through that board. Or we're always never going to be able to find the diamond in Disneyland. So I invite you to really consider your mindset when approaching challenges, your mindset about your capabilities or abilities. And when you consider your goals or your dreams or the things that you're working on or working through, to me, I think the mindset is one of the biggest things that we can overcome. And for me, in those moments that I still get stuck, that's where I come back to my practice. I come back to meditation. I come back to slowing down and getting still. I get really curious of the voice of my inner critic and asking myself, is that still true? Does that apply? Is that just an old story? Is that just an old belief system? And most often it is. But when I can recognize that I'm enacting that old belief system out of habit and that it's actually no longer serving me, then I have the freedom to be able to choose my response to that. So just like I did with the story, if you listen to the episode of me hiking Diamond Head, I will post on social media the video of me breaking the board so you can see my experience. And in fact, I've got both videos when I didn't break it and when I did, and maybe I'll even post both, because my immediate thought when I didn't break the board was to delete that video, but I think I need to post that one even more so, because that's a very common experience of not passing the obstacle. So thanks you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to continue to practice pushing past your obstacles, checking your mindset, figuring out how you too can do hard things to reach your goals and your dreams that you don't otherwise know how to achieve, because you might keep getting stuck in your own way saying, I can't do that, or I don't know how to do that, then please check out the show notes. I've got some really helpful links for you that I think you're going to like about how to take those steps towards becoming more peaceful, more calm, and more joyful in your life, so you cannot get stuck on the things that are no longer serving you, and see how mindfulness can be applied in really every aspect of your life, so you can be living the life that you want to be leading. Thanks you guys so much for tuning in and for sharing in this 100th episode with me. If this podcast has been inspiring to you, if it's inspired any motivation for creating long-term lasting positive change in your life, or you've just enjoyed the stories that I've shared, it would mean so much to me if you would give it a rating or a review, so that way more people can experience the journey forward in their own lives, so they can also be leading the life that they want to be leading. Thanks again so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care and be well.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat, visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.